Location, UA rooftop sunset training. It had been a week since Izuku returned. Classes had resumed, and his injuries had mostly healed. But emotionally, he wasn't back yet. He trained, attended lessons, and smiled when spoken to, but something in his fire was still dim. That's when Aizawa called him to the rooftop. Aizawa and Present wiht. The orange glow of the setting sun bathed the rooftop. Aizawa stood silently near the railing. Present leaned back on a vent, arms crossed. Izuku stepped out, unsure. You wanted to see me, sensei. Aizawa nodded. Time to face it. Face what? A voice behind him. Yourself, said Kyuka, stepping through the door. She held a bundle, a flame-proof cloth. Inside was his custom flame guitar. The one he kept hidden. The one tied to his power. His passion. His pain. Izuku stiffened. Facing the truth. Aizawa stepped forward. Midoriya. Your quirk isn't the problem. Izuku looked away. Stain said, fire like mine is a curse. That it destroys. That. You believed him, Aizawa cut in. Because a part of you always feared it was true. Mick finally spoke, softer than usual. Power doesn't define you, kid. You do. And I've seen what you do, with or without that fire. You save people. Kyuka's voice. Kyuka stepped up beside him. You didn't hurt that woman. You protected her. You didn't need your fire, but you're stronger with it. She held out the guitar. And I want to hear what your fire really sounds like. Izuku stared at it. Hands trembling. Flames flickering just under his skin. What if I burn it? What if I mess up? Kyuka gently touched his cheek. Then we try again. Together. The spark. He took the guitar. Plugged the flame channel lines into the amplifier unit on his gloves. The chords hissed slightly, accepting his warmth. He strummed once. A spark. Then a roar. The flame funnels lit, channeling his power into a low, rising chord, like embers swirling in wind. Kyuka connected her jacks into the rooftop amp and joined in with a soft, rising vocal tone. Their sounds merged. And for the first time in weeks, Izuku didn't feel cursed. He felt alive. After the fire. The song ended in silence. The sunset fading into twilight. Izuku turned to Aizawa, eyes wet. I'm ready to try again. Aizawa gave him a rare, proud look. Then let's start training. And this time, no holding back. Final words, Izuku's thoughts. My fire isn't perfect. But it's mine. It burns because I care, because I feel. Because I refuse to watch people suffer. So if I burn, I'll burn for something. I'll burn to protect. I'm not cursed. I'm Emberborn Fire Training Arc, the ashes we shape. Izuku Midoriya and Aizawa's Fire Control Intensive. Day 1, Scorch and Scatter. Location, UA Training Grounds, Gamma 7 AM. Aizawa waited by a reinforced training circle, the ground already scorched from past exercises. He wore tinted goggles instead of his usual bandages today. He wanted to see everything. Izuku arrived in his modified suit, heat-resistant material, steam vents lining his boots and gloves, and compression channels for his fire output. No distractions, Aizawa said. Today is about learning how to use your fire, not just when. They began with breath control drills. Inhale for 6 seconds, hold, exhale through a clenched core. The fire needed fuel, but it needed rhythm. Izuku's hands trembled with each exhale, small sparks crackling. I've burned too much in panic. It's time to burn with purpose. Training Focus 1, Fire Arc Control. Using compressed output valves in his gloves, Izuku practiced launching bursts of flame in controlled arcs, measured, focused, non-lethal projections. The goal: take down dummies without damaging the environment. Aizawa critiqued him silently, then showed his own version. Using erasure, he briefly shut down a flame drone and pointed to the remains. Precision matters. You're not a flamethrower, you're a scalpel with heat. Izuku adjusted. Lowered his heat output. Redirected flames through his heel boosters, pivoting into the air to avoid burning nearby barriers. This is rescue level control. Day 2 Heat and Humanity. Present Mick joined today's session. Time to train the voice and fire together, he grinned. Kyuka arrived too, offering support and pairing her sonic quirk with Izuku's flame projections to create staggerburst techniques, a combo meant to disorient villains without overkill. They built a technique called Flash Burn Pulse. Izuku would blast a low heat burst upward, and Kyuka would time a frequency pulse that reflected off the heat wave, creating a sonic mirage to confuse opponents. Mick watched proudly. You're thinking like a pro, Midoriya. Training Focus 2, Fire for Rescue. Aizawa shifted the drills. He simulated trapped civilians in collapsed buildings and blocked escape routes. You can't just burn your way in, he said. You need finesse. Izuku learned to warm steel without melting it, to vaporize water barriers slowly, and most of all, to use his fire for light, warmth, and guidance. A hero's flame must protect, not destroy. By sunset, Izuku helped a mock victim escape a debris trap using only body heat and precision flame cutting. Day 3 Burn without breaking. Today was a spa. Izuku vs Aizawa. You rely too much on instinct. Let's see how you handle strategy. Aizawa attacked from the shadows, erasure ready. Izuku had to hide his fire, launching only micro-flashes to bait his sensei into revealing himself. They danced through the ruins of Gamma, a test of intellect, stamina, and non-destructive application. Finally, Izuku feinted with a double burst from his boots, flipped behind Aizawa, and lit a single flame above his shoulder. You're tagged, Izuku whispered. A pause. Then Aizawa gave him the rarest prize. A smile. That night, Izuku sat on the rooftop with Kyuka, his flames dancing gently around his fingertips. They weren't wild anymore. They pulsed like a heartbeat. You did it, Kyuka whispered. Izuku looked down at his hands, no longer afraid of what they held. No, we did it. Early morning UA dorms. The 1st of July. Kyuka Jirau's 16th birthday. She woke up with sunlight kissing her face and a strange calm in her chest. For once, her alarm didn't blare. For once, Mina didn't barge in screaming it's your birthday. And for once, her earlobes didn't twitch with anxiety. Because something in the air felt right. On her desk sat a small box. Wrapped in a mix of purple and green paper, a single tag read. Open after breakfast. I.M. She smiled, cheeks already coloring. That nerd. Breakfast common room. Class 1 greeted her with warmth. Mina made her pancakes in the shape of musical notes. Kaminari handed her a super sparkly bracelet, like electricity but classy, and even Bakuga gave her a grunt and nod, which, in Bakuga speak, was basically a hug. But no Izuku. He's got a thing with Aizawa, Kaminari said, badly hiding a smirk. A thing, she narrowed her eyes. Hero training thing. Totally not a mysterious romantic surprise. You suck at lying. Afternoon, the trail of notes. After class, her phone buzzed. Outgoing email symbol message from Izuku Midoriya. Meet me outside dorm gate at 4. Bring your guitar. Wear something comfy. Trust me. Red heart. She blushed so hard even her ear jacks curled. At 4 p.m. sharp, she found a note pinned to the gate. Musical note: first clue, follow the music, not the map. Head toward training ground theta. Each turn had a new note, carefully written. Guitar, you make my heart play a rhythm it never knew. Fire, you're louder than my fire and I love that. Green heart, I've waited all week for this. When she reached the last tree, there he stood. Izuku. Wearing a deep green button-up, sleeves rolled, his hair even messier than usual, holding a picnic basket in one hand and an acoustic guitar strapped over his back. Behind him, a little stage, hand-built, fairy lights strung through trees, a gentle waterfall nearby, and the words "Happy Birthday," Kyuka made out of flower petals on the grass. Evening strings of emotion. They ate on a picnic blanket, bento boxes he made himself, Mom supervised. I may have set off the fire alarm once. Kyuka laughed more than she had in weeks. Then he handed her the acoustic guitar. This is the one you saw in my closet, right? She blinked. You fixed it. Cleaned, tuned, and added a flame vent system, non-combustible. It responds to your frequency now. She touched it gently. Izuku, this is yours. She kissed him. Not rushed. Not shy. Just pure and real. Nightfall, a private duet. The two sat on the mini stage. Fireflies blinking around them. He strummed a gentle melody, one he wrote himself. She added soft vocals, letting her heart guide her. You're like music in the silence. A spark in the dark I didn't know I needed. When the song ended, they sat in silence, hand in hand. Kyuka, he said, voice trembling slightly, I don't want to keep waiting. I've been scared of being too much. Too intense. But I love you. I'm in love with you. Her eyes widened, then softened. Took you long enough. She climbed into his lap, wrapped her arms around his shoulders. I love you too. And next time you run off like a dramatic fire prince, I'm coming with you. They kissed again, this time longer, warmer, surrounded by nothing but stars, music, and the sound of their two hearts beating in sync. Final scene back at the dorms. She wore his hoodie. He held her hand the entire walk back. They didn't say much. Didn't need to. Later, as she curled up next to him on the common room couch, guitar beside them, he whispered, Happy birthday, Kyuka. And she whispered back, Best birthday ever, my love. UA dorm 6:42 a.m. The morning light bathed Heights Alliance in a warm, amber hue. Birds chirped beyond the reinforced windows as peace, for once, wrapped the dorms in silence. Well, almost silence. Minor Ashido, dressed in pink pajamas covered in lightning bolts, was tiptoeing down the hallway with a smoothie in each hand and suspicion in her eyes. Kyuka's birthday went a little too perfect yesterday, she whispered to herself. They danced. They laughed. She practically melted when Izuku sang that duet with her. She smirked. There's no way they aren't snuggling right now. She rounded the corner. Izuku's room was cracked open, just slightly. Curiosity won over caution. She leaned forward, peeking inside. What she saw made her freeze. Inside Izuku's room. Izuku's comforter was tangled slightly, but two shapes rested calmly beneath it. Kyuka's head was nestled perfectly into Izuku's chest, her earlobe cords loosely wrapped around one of his fingers like a tether. His hand rested in her hair, the other across her back. He wasn't glowing. No sparks. No fire. Just warmth. And then Mina's eyes zoomed in. Is that a mark? A hickey? A bright one, just beneath Kyuka's jaw. Mina squeaked, bouncing like a soda bottle about to explode. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. Ashido. A low growl behind her. Bakuga. She turned, frozen like a deer in headlights. Kirishima stood next to him, half awake and confused. Mina. Kirishima asked. Are you spying on them? No. I mean yes. I mean it's so cute. Bakuga grabbed her collar and yanked her back like a claw machine prize, slamming the door shut behind them. Let them sleep. 7:15 a.m. inside the room. The rays of sunlight grew stronger, filtering through the blinds. The warmth stirred Izuku Midoriya awake. He blinked slowly, then looked down. There she was. Kyuka Jirou. Soft breaths, light blush on her cheeks, lips slightly parted in sleep. Her hand still clutched the hem of his shirt. Her earpiece cords looped around his wrist like a ribbon. She's here, he thought. She stayed. He smiled faintly, running his hand gently across her back in slow, soothing circles. His other hand tangled gently through her hair. Kyuka stirred, brow twitching. Then her violet eyes opened slowly. Morning, Izu, she mumbled, nuzzling into his chest. Morning, my Kyo. She yawned and stretched, groaning. We should probably get up. 5 more minutes. He nodded. 5 more, or 10. She smiled. 7:45 a.m. getting ready. Eventually, they rose, both blushing slightly. Kyuka grabbed a hoodie off the back of his chair, his hoodie. Is this mine now? She teased. It was already yours. She giggled, tugging it on. Izuku reached for a comb but paused to watch her, his eyes soft and admiring. Kyuka caught him. What? She smirked. You're just perfect. She turned red, then threw a pillow at him. As he laughed and dodged it, he walked forward, closing the space between them. Gently, he lifted her and sat her down on his desk, holding her waist like she was the most fragile, important thing in his world. I love you, Kyuka. I love you too, Izuku. They leaned in, and the kiss was deep, long, and full of gratitude. Not just love, comfort. The kind of bond built not just on attraction, but survival, vulnerability, and choice. 8:12 a.m. Common room chaos. Meanwhile downstairs, Class 1 was buzzing. Where's Midoriya? Yurika asked. And Kyuka? Kaminari added. Maybe they went out early. Taida suggested, adjusting his glasses. Or maybe they're just still asleep together, Mina whispered with a grin. Bakuga shot her a glare. Say it again and I'll melt your phone. Worth it, she said with zero regret. 9 a.m. after breakfast. Izuku and Kyuka finally walked downstairs, holding hands. Everyone turned. Silence. Then Kirishima grinned. Oh yeah. Power couples here. Mina practically popped with glee, but said nothing, only gave Kyuka a knowing wink. Kyuka turned scarlet. Izuku scratched the back of his neck. Morning, everyone. Then Kyuka mumbled. Guys, thanks. For yesterday. For letting it all be perfect. It was perfect, Izuku said, looking at her, because you're the best part of it. Later that day, rooftop moment. They sat side by side on the roof, feet dangling over the edge. Kyuka leaned into him. I used to hate birthdays, she said. Never felt like I deserved to be celebrated. He didn't respond with words. Just squeezed her hand tighter. You made me feel like I matter. Like I'm allowed to be happy. Izuku turned to her. You're not just allowed. You're meant to be. They kissed again, the city stretching out before them. No villains. No fire. Just heartbeats. Saturday morning, UA dorm common room. It was rare to get a whole day off. Rarer still for 6 students from class 1 to agree on how to spend it. But somehow, miraculously, it had happened. Mina bounced in place with excitement, wearing bright yellow overalls over a black crop top. Okay. I triple-checked the train schedule, I've got a list of food spots, and we're definitely hitting that vintage arcade. We are not, Bakuga muttered, arms crossed. We are, Kirishima grinned, patting him on the shoulder. Come on man, you need this more than any of us. Bakuga grunted but didn't argue further. Momo stood nearby, dressed elegantly casual in a white blouse and jeans, clutching a neat itinerary in one hand and a thermos of fresh herbal tea in the other. We can start at the central station, then walk through the garden promenade. There's an outdoor cafe with good reviews, and I believe it will suit everyone's dietary needs. Fancy tea and street meat skewers, Mina whispered to Kyuka. It's like the best of both worlds. Kyuka chuckled softly, leaning slightly against Izuku. He smiled down at her, his green hoodie blending nicely with her purple flannel. You ready for some noise? He whispered. Always, she smirked. Long as you don't try to outdance me again. No promises. Late morning train ride. The 6 of them boarded the train at Muzutafu station, laughter already bouncing off the metal walls. Kirishima and Bakuga stood near the back, Bakuga glaring down anyone who dared approach too close. Kirishima grinned and snapped selfies with him anyway. Smile, bro, this is team bonding. I will end your bloodline. Meanwhile, the other 4 snagged seats by the window. Momo and Mina flipped through a pop culture magazine together, occasionally pointing and laughing at hero fashion spreads. Izuku leaned into Kyuka's side, quietly humming a melody she'd played him the night before. You remember that? She asked, a bit surprised. It got stuck in my head. I kept thinking of you. She looked away quickly, but not before he saw her blush. Midday garden promenade and cafe. The air smelled like fresh bread and wildflowers. They walked together along cobblestone paths, passing musicians, food carts, and clusters of blooming roses. It was almost too peaceful. Mina grabbed a flower crown from a vendor and forced it onto Bakuga's head. Get that crap off me before I incinerate it. No, you look like a spring fairy, she cackled. Kaken the flower knight, Kirishima added with a wide grin. Bakuga smacked it off, grumbling, but the faintest smirk twitched at the corner of his lips. At the cafe, Momo treated everyone with her allowance, though she made it seem like no big deal. They sat outdoors beneath ivy-covered awnings. Izuku and Kyuka shared a dessert, a single slice of mashed tiramisu. You know I'm stealing at least half, right? She said, fork raised. I counted on it, he replied, holding the plate closer to her side. Afternoon arcade madness. Mina dragged them to the vintage arcade. It smelled of old tokens, soda syrup, and dusty neon lights, and it was glorious. Kirishima and Bakuga went head-to-head at a rhythm game. The screen flashed wildly as both boys stomped, swung, and screamed with competitive fury. I'm gonna bury you, Bakuga yelled over a thumping beat. Not if I shatter the floor first, Kirishima shouted back. Momo and Mina cheered and danced beside them while Kyuka and Izuku took the quieter path. They found a co-op fighting game in the corner. Izuku hesitated. I'm not very good at this one. Then we'll lose together, Kyuka said, slotting a coin in with a smile. He smiled back, and promptly button mashed his way into near defeat. Wow, she said, smirking. You're actually worse than Minta at this. Harsh but fair. They laughed, and as the screen flashed game over, Kyuka leaned her head on his shoulder. Thanks for this, Izu. I needed today more than I realized. Me too. Evening city lights and quiet moments. The sun dipped beneath the skyline as the group wandered into a rooftop park overlooking the city. They found a wide patch of grass near a koi pond. The 6 friends lay in a lazy circle, limbs stretched, conversation drifting. Kirishima threw popcorn kernels into the air, trying to catch them in his mouth. Momo journaled beside Mina, who was humming quietly and drawing tiny stars in the air with a spark from her fingers. Kyuka was curled beside Izuku on a sloped hill. Think we'll always get days like this? She asked. He looked at her, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Maybe not always. But I'll make sure we keep finding them. She smiled softly, leaning forward. Their kiss was short and quiet, but the kind that anchored you to the moment. Late night back at UA dorms. They returned tired but smiling. Even Bakuga didn't yell during goodnights. Kirishima fist bumped everyone. Mina gave hugs. Momo thanked them for the joy of the day. Kyuka linked her pinky with Izuku's as they lingered at the stairwell. Walk me to my room, she asked. He nodded. And so, as the others retreated, Izuku and Kyuka wandered the quiet halls together. No words. Just fingers intertwined and peaceful silence. The kind of silence that means, you're safe. You're home. We're okay. UA campus training grounds beta. The sun was barely up, but Class 1 was already sweating. Final exams weren't just written tests. They would be practical combat exams, a brutal mix of simulated battle scenarios and unpredictability, and worse yet, rumors were swirling that they'd be facing pro heroes in battle. Aizawa confirmed it that morning with all the enthusiasm of a man who hadn't slept in 3 days. You'll be paired up. Then you'll fight instructors. If you lose, you fail. Welcome to reality. The class buzzed with panic and excitement. Pair announcements and reactions. The pairings dropped like bombs. Izuku Midoriya and Katsuki Bakuga. Kyuka Jirou and Momo Yaoyorozu. Shoto Todoroki and Tenya Taida. Akako Uraraka and Yuga Aoyama. Denki Kaminari and Mina Ashido. Zuyu Ajue and Fumikage Koyami. Ijiro Kirishima and Zero Hanta. Mineta and Shuji. Sato and Higakyo. Ojiro and Kaji Koda. Mina threw her hands up. A wild card round. I love it. Kyuka stared at her paper. Momo. Okay, yeah. Let's go big brain. Bakuga growled at Izuku. Don't slow me down, Deku. Let's just win, Izuku replied quietly, fire flickering in his breath. Aizawa turned toward them all. Your teachers will not be pulling punches. This is where you prove you're ready for the real world. Training begins 2 weeks to go. The first week was conditioning and coordination. Midoriya and Bakuga trained in a scorched section of training grounds Gamma. Constant sparring. Sweat. Bruises. Explosions. Fire. Neither of them talked much, but when they did, it was all battle instinct and grudging respect. Kyuka and Momo spent their time refining their complementary tactics. Momo created support gear while Kyuka used sound manipulation for tactical scouting. They ran stealth drills at night, using signals and vibrations. You're the most versatile fighter in this class, Kyuka told Momo one evening. Own it. Todoroki and Taida worked in a wind tunnel facility. Taida trained to react to icy terrain. Todoroki practiced suppressing his firepower to match Taida's speed. We cover each other's blind spots, Taida said. Let's become a seamless unit. Uraraka and Aoyama had a harder time. Aoyama struggled with coordination, but Uraraka encouraged him through motion sickness, balance issues, and all. We'll float when it counts, she said. Trust me. Denki and Mina became the loudest pair. Denki zapped targets while Mina slid across slick terrain. This is so dumb it might actually work. Mina yelled during a test run. Let's do it again. Midweek check-in dorm conversations. Night fell. Sweat, training fatigue, and ramen steam filled the dorm. Izuku sat with Kyuka outside on the dorm steps. He had a cold pack on his shoulder. She was tuning her ear jacks, face flushed from the day's drills. How's Bakuga? She asked. He's intense. But we're actually syncing up. Kinda scary. You're scary when you're serious, she smiled. A pause. You think we'll all pass? We have to, he said. If we don't, we're not ready for what's coming. He didn't have to say villains. She understood. Inside, the rest of the class was playing cards, massaging sore muscles, and talking through strategy. Todoroki sat quietly with Taida, reviewing match footage. Momo wrote notes. Mina braided Kaminari's hair while he complained that his arms were sore from doing push-ups. Kirishima was giving Shuji a motivational talk about manly balance. Even Bakuga sat alone near the window, quiet for once, watching the moon. Final countdown spa day. The second week was full combat simulation. Students faced moving platforms, shifting terrain, and robot enemies programmed with villain tactics. Izuku and Bakuga learned to switch roles in an instant. Izuku used his fire to clear paths, Bakuga blasted them upward. They began trusting each other's decisions, even if they grumbled the whole time. Kyuka and Momo executed a near-perfect infiltration test, sound suppression and high-level gadget use. Kyuka even stunned Aizawa's clone bot with a high-pitch reverb bomb that Momo had fabricated in under 10 seconds. Todoroki and Taida hit their stride, freezing and dashing across an obstacle field with precision. "We've come far," Todoroki admitted. "And we're not done." Mina, Kaminari, and Kirishima developed creative combo moves. Yurika and Aoyama managed to clear their stealth trial, barely, but with a triumphant scream that echoed down the hallway. The night before the exam, everyone was sore. Everyone was nervous. Aizawa gave a final speech. "You've worked harder than I expected. But the real test comes tomorrow. Your opponents are pro-heroes. They'll exploit your weaknesses. Your only goal is to win, or escape. You won't win by power alone. You'll win by trusting each other." That night, the dorms were alive with quiet preparation. Izuku walked past Todoroki and Taida strategizing. He saw Kyuka asleep on the common room couch, earphones still playing music. Kyuka sat near the window again, eyes on the stars. Izuku didn't feel scared. He felt ready. Duel or Escape Class 1A's final exam trials begin. Musical Note 1. Kyuka Jirou and Momo Yaoyorozu vs Present Mic Microphone. Training Field, Sonic Stadium. The moment the two girls stepped in, the walls vibrated. The air was charged with bass, treble, and sheer volume. Present Mic's voice echoed across the arena with a scream. Yaoyorozu. Jirou. Let's rock. Kyuka winced, covering her ears. He's got sound traps everywhere. Momo immediately created vibration-dampening earbuds and handed one to Jirou, then used her quirk to build a frequency disruptor. Jirou inserted her jack into the ground, analyzing seismic pulses. "He's looping us with reverb. His voice isn't coming from one direction, it's everywhere." The two weaved through the stadium, Momo deploying foam barriers while Kyuka built a subsonic pulse bomb. A sharp scream from above nearly shattered the barrier. Kyuka grabbed Momo's arm. "Now," she shouted, triggering the bomb. The pulse echoed outward, cutting Present Mic's speakers temporarily. They ran for the exit gate, only for Present Mic to reappear, still loud, but smiling proudly. "You made me switch tactics. That's a pass." The girls collapsed, laughing and panting. Kyuka gave Momo a high five. Snowflake 2. Shoto Todoroki and Tenya Taida vs Power Loader Hammer and Wrench. Training Field, Tectonic Subtunnel. Power Loader burst from the ground like a mole on caffeine, his excavation arms tunneling in all directions. "Welcome to my labyrinth, boys." Taida dashed ahead, scouting. Todoroki cooled the earth to make tracking easier. "Stay close," Todoroki warned. "This terrain is his quirk. So we box him in," Taida said. "You freeze. I break." They chased Power Loader through shifting earth and metal beams. When Power Loader tried to collapse a tunnel on them, Taida used Recipro Extend to carry Todoroki up the shaft just in time. At the final choke point, Todoroki superheated the rock, then flash froze it, collapsing Power Loader's escape route. "You learned restraint," their teacher said. "Good work." Comet 3. Akako Yurika and Yuga Aoyama vs 13 Milky Way. Training Field, Zero Gravity Dockyard. 13's black hole quirk was a nightmare. Containers flew. Steel twisted. Air distorted. Aoyama nearly vomited from stress. Mondayu. She's sucking the air itself. Eureka kept them low to the ground. She doesn't want to hurt us, just test our control. They floated debris as cover and blind us. Aoyama used his naval laser to reflect off mirrors Momo had left behind from her earlier fight. Eventually, Eureka spotted the escape point and whispered, "We're going for it." She used her quirk on both of them, and Aoyama blasted them toward the gate. They barely made it, panting, falling over in a pile. "Well done," 13 said calmly. "You didn't panic." High voltage sign 4. Denki Kaminari and Minor Ashido vs Hound Dog Face. Training field, urban maze. Smells like fear in here. Hound Dog snarled, bounding over a wall. Minor shrieked. "Why's he so fast?" Kaminari zapped a path through the hedge walls while Minor coated her feet in acid to melt a slope for escape. "You're both chaotic, untrained, and full of mistakes." Hound Dog barked, chasing. "Thanks," Kaminari replied, dodging a claw swipe. At the final wall, Minor said, "Lift me." Kaminari complied, sending a jolt through the vines to keep Hound Dog back while Minor melted a hole to the exit. They dove through, landing in a roll. "Pass," Hound Dog said through growls. "Barely." Frog Face 5. Zuyu Azue and Fumikage Takoyami vs Ectoplasm Fox Face. Training field, Fog Dock. Clones swarmed them. 10 copies Zuyu counted. 20 Takoyami corrected. Dark Shadow roared out, tearing through illusions, while Zuyu leaped between docks using her tongue. Ectoplasm's real form was hidden, constantly moving. "Use the shadows," Takoyami whispered. "Make him come to us." They hunkered in a warehouse, setting traps with Zuyu's mucus and using shadows to trick clone placement. When Ectoplasm arrived, Zuyu wrapped her tongue around his leg and flipped him into a net trap made of dock wires. "You adapted and coordinated," he said with a nod. "Approved." Flexed biceps 6. Jirou Kirishima and Zero Hunter vs Cementos Brick. Training field, Canyon Wall. Wall slammed shut. Cementos was reshaping the battlefield live. Zero fired tape from one wall to another, barely dodging cement spikes. Kirishima hardened and punched through each barrier. "He's splitting us up," Kirishima shouted. "Keep your voice down," Zero replied. "He's tracking echoes." Kirishima pounded one wall while Zero slung behind to blindside their teacher with a glue trap. Together, they made a decoy Kirishima, using broken armor and tape, baiting Cementos. When he went to crush it, the real Kirishima burst from underground, Zero dragging him at high speed. They made it through the exit with 5 seconds left. Grapes 7. Minta and Shuji vs Midnight. Training field, Floral Garden. Minta screamed within 4 seconds. "Why Midnight?" Shuji covered his nose, analyzing wind patterns. "We can't breathe this stuff." "You think you can trap her?" Minta turned red. "That sounds like something I can do." While Shuji created distractions with his duplicated arms, Minta tossed grape bombs on 2 flower petals, creating adhesive scent traps. Midnight stepped on one, and stuck. "What the?" Shuji rushed in, carrying Minta like a football. They hit the buzzer and collapsed. Midnight clapped. "Creative. Perverted. But creative." Ghost 8. Sato and Higakyo vs Snipe Ray Gun. Training field, Gun Course Arena. Keep moving. Higakyo yelled. Hard to do when you're the invisible one. Sato replied, gulping sugar for power. Snipe was perched above them, sniper rifle aimed but never hitting vital spots, just testing reflexes. Sato lifted barrels as shields. Higakyo used reflected light to blind Snipe temporarily. At one point, Sato threw a barrel that exploded with sugar mist, a trick Higakyo borrowed from Momo. Higakyo snuck up during the confusion and hit the gate buzzer. Snipe smiled under his hat. A strong man and a ghost girl, nice combo. Monkey Face 9. Ojiro and Kajikoda vs Nezu Brain. Training field, maze grid. Nezu's traps were diabolical. Falling tiles. Shifting walls. Bomb-dropping drones. I feel like we're in a video game. Ojiro said. Koda silently summoned birds to scout above. Ojiro mapped with tail movements. They built a tunnel using a mole rat summoned by Koda to avoid cameras. By using animal vision and sound relay, they mapped the pattern and escaped just before a wall dropped on them. Delightfully methodical. Nezu praised. You're both thinkers in disguise. Location, Exam Zone Alpha wrecked city. The skies overhead darkened as thunder rolled through the artificial clouds. A simulated disaster city spread before them, smoke curling from broken towers, glass crunched underfoot. Concrete rubble formed jagged edges in the ruins of a street once meant to protect the innocent. In the distance stood a shadow. Unmoving. Smiling. All Might. Midoriya. Bakuga, his voice echoed from across the desolation. Are you ready? The test was simple, capture or escape All Might. Simple. But not easy. Izuku's POV. My heart was pounding. Bakuga stood beside me, his jaw tight, arms crossed, muscles flexing with every breath. I didn't need to ask to know what he was thinking. We don't run. We fight. My mind raced. The layout of the map. The possible points of ambush. The limits of my flame output. I remembered the burn scars on my shoulders and thighs from last week's training. We can't win if we charge him, I whispered. Bakuga sneered. I'm not running like some damn coward. I exhaled, calming my nerves. We don't run. We outmaneuver him. Burn bright, strike smart. He looked at me, surprised for a split second. Then nodded. Fine. We win. Together. And then. The wind changed. And the next second. He was on us. Bakuga's POV. I didn't even hear him move. Just felt it. Pressure. Like gravity itself had turned against us. He came crashing down from the sky, faster than a missile. Detroit smash. I launched myself away with a concussive blast, dodging at the last possible second. Midoriya barely managed to side flip away, the ground where we stood before imploding into a smoking crater. This was All Might at half power. He's not playing around, I muttered. I blasted a boulder into dust. We hit hard. Hit fast. Or we're done. Midoriya flanked left, fire licking his hands. I went right, using debris as cover. He turned toward Deku first, just like always. Idiot still wore his heart on his damn sleeves. Midoriya. I shouted. Now. All Might's POV. They've improved. Midoriya was faster. Controlled. His flame didn't sputter anymore, it streamed. Bakuga was just as explosive, but his aim had purpose now. Not reckless rage. Directed power. "You're not children anymore," I said softly, watching them move in tandem. Deku launched a column of fire upward. Bakuga soared behind it, shielded by the flames. Then, boom, Bakuga let loose an aerial barrage. Not toward me, but toward the street below me. Dust, smoke, glass. Midoriya's flame curved around my back, whip-like. I caught it, but then felt the actual threat. Behind me. Bakuga landed, point blank, fists glowing white hot. Die. I let him hit me. Izuku's POV. Bakuga connected. Direct hit. All Might staggered back a step, not out of pain, but surprise. I followed through. Flame ignited from my palms, concentrated and focused. Not wild. Tether strike. A twin beam of fire from my wrists wrapped around his arms. I braced my feet. The heat scorched the air, and I yelled to Bakuga. "Now. Go." Bakuga didn't hesitate. He pulled a stun grenade from his belt, a prototype my Hatsune had lent us. Detonate. Blind. Move. The flash hit. All Might staggered. And for a split second, we had him. All Might's POV. Good. The old me would have smiled bigger. Laughed even. They were thinking like heroes now. Not boys. Bakuga's decoy. Midoriya's focus. Their rhythm was clunky, but synchronized. Then I shifted. No more time to praise. I moved. Bakuga's POV. He disappeared. One moment, caught. The next, gone. I turned. Too late. His fist hit me like a tank shell. I flew backward through a car window, bones screaming, breath stolen. Keikaken. Midoriya's voice broke. Dumbass. I coughed blood and spat. Don't, slow down. Izuku's POV. I turned to him, Bakuga, blood dripping from his mouth. And then the sound. Boom. Too close. Too fast. All Might was right in front of me. He didn't swing. He waited. Come on, Midoriya. My hands were on fire. But I didn't strike. I exhaled. I pulled it back. Not everything needs to burn. Instead, I created a circle of flame around us both. Not to trap him. To trap me. I decided. Let Bakuga go. He's unconscious. It's just me now. All Might raised an eyebrow. You think you can win alone? I clenched my fists. No, I think I can survive long enough. All Might's POV. He was shaking. But he stood. He didn't flare. He didn't charge. He just focused. You've learned, I said. I'm still learning, he replied. But I'm not running. He attacked. Precise. Swift. Fire licking my sides, trying to chain around my ankles. I dodged. Swept. He rolled. Burned through my blind side. He's planning something. Then I heard it. BZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ. A countdown charge. Bakuga's gauntlet. The one he dropped. Shit. Bakuga's POV. Boom. From the rubble I launched one more strike, point blank into All Might's side. It was reckless. Loud. Perfect. The blast launched Midoriya and me into the air, straight toward the exit gate behind All Might. He could have caught us. He didn't. Because he was smiling. Good job, boys. Final judgment. Smoke settled. Sirens faded. Recovery girl checked their injuries while Aizawa observed from the tower. Mick called it into the mic. Pass. Ijuku Midoriya. Katsuki Bakuga. Objective, escape. Status, complete. Aftermath brief reflections. Aizawa, watching from above. They didn't overpower him. But they learned. Adapted. Bakuga worked with someone else. Midoriya led. They passed. All Might, alone at the gate. He whispered to himself as the boys were carried out. You've both come so far. And you still have so far to go. Location, UA High Class 1, a home room. The sun was just beginning to warm the glass windows of UA, streaks of golden light spilling across the floor of Class 1A. The battle-worn students filtered in one by one, some still limping from injuries, others bandaged but beaming. Everyone had passed. But that didn't mean they were off the hook. A heavy silence hung in the air as Aizawa stood at the front, projector remote in hand, his capture weapon draped loosely over his shoulders. His face was as tired as ever, but his eyes were sharp. Unblinking. Behind him, the screen flickered to life. Take your seats, he said dryly. You may have passed the practical. But don't let it go to your heads. In 1 week, you will be tested again, for real, in front of the government. The room shifted, a few murmurs rising. Aizawa raised the volume on the footage. We're going to analyze your performances from your final exams. One at a time. You're going to watch yourselves succeed, and fail. One Jirou and Koda versus Present Mick. The screen played static, then flared to life, Koda and Jirou ducking behind debris as Present Mick's sound waves tore through buildings. Koda, Aizawa said. You relied entirely on external animals. Your instinct to run isn't wrong, but in open battlefields, hesitation kills. Koda bowed his head slightly. Jirou, strong basics. But you're stuck in linear thought. Tail strikes only work if you can trap someone. Learn versatility. You'll be working double time with me this week. 2 Shuji and Minta versus Midnight. The footage showed Shuji shielding Minta from sleep gas as the small grape-headed student flailed in panic. Shuji, excellent shielding. Bad field control. You didn't use your environment. Minta, Aizawa paused. You weaponized fear. Creatively. But in a real fight, it could have backfired catastrophically. You'll work with Cementos for evasive terrain training. Minta nervously saluted. 3 Kirishima and Zero versus Cementos. Explosions of hardened concrete. Zero using tape to swing Kirishima like a wrecking ball. Aizawa gave a grunt of reluctant approval. Zero, great application of quirk synergy. But you lack strength in solo scenarios. You depend too much on mobility. Kirishima, too reckless. Running headfirst into cement walls doesn't make you a hero. It makes you a liability. This week, controlled aggression drills with power loader. 4 Minor and Kaminari versus Nezu. The screen displayed chaos, acid trails, frayed circuits, and Nezu's unpredictable traps. Minor, you're agile, but your reactions are delayed under high stress. Focus drills. Kaminari, stop frying your own brain. Your output is impressive, but uncontrolled. Precision over power. You'll train with mic for sonic and electromagnetic control. Denki raised his hand sheepishly. So, no more blackout face. Not unless you want to die in the licensing exam. 5 Todoroki and Taida vs Power Loader. The footage showed explosions of earth and ice, with Taida zipping through narrow passageways and Todoroki supporting with walls of fire and frost. Todoroki, finally using both sides. Good. Now stop hesitating before using your fire. Taida, outstanding battlefield scanning. But you're predictable. Even villains know what a reciprocal burst looks like. We're going to develop an alternate tempo strategy. Both boys nodded silently. 6 Yaoyorozu and Jirou vs Hound Dog. Kyuka's jacks vibrated with subsonic frequency, and Momo created shields mid-run, supporting her partner in bursts of focus. Yaoyorozu, excellent usage of creativity. But too slow under pressure. You'll be joining Hatsum for speed design sessions. Jirou, good support instincts. Your sonic pulse layering was creative. But you freeze when cornered. We'll fix that in close quarters training with Midnight. Kyuka blushed slightly as Izuku smiled at her from his seat. 7 Sato and Higakyo vs Ectoplasm. Brief flashes of shadows. Invisible feet stomping. Sugar-fueled blows swinging through clones. Sato, strong but clumsy. Your reach means nothing if you can't find your target. Work on audio tracking with Shuji. Higakyo, brilliant use of stealth. But too reactive. You need initiative. You'll be joining recovery scenario simulations with Rescue Unit Beta. 8 Eureka and Aoyama vs 13. Space Dust. Gravity-defying stunts. Aoyama nearly vomiting halfway through. Eureka, fast thinking under pressure. But you keep looking before acting. Trust your instincts. You'll work with me and snipe. Aoyama, you didn't die. That's an improvement. Aoyama winked dramatically. C'est la victoire tilde. 9 Zu and Takoyami vs Ectoplasm. Shadows fled. Zu's tongue lashed. An elegant balance of light and dark. Azue, good maneuverability, needs more tactical depth. Takoyami, dark shadow is still your crutch. You haven't mastered him. You'll be training in sunlit environments only. Takoyami sighed. How bright. Desert Arena 3. 10 Midoriya and Bakuga vs. All Might. Everyone leaned forward. The footage played, explosions, fire whips, desperate breath, cooperation. Bakuga, quiet as the grave, stared at the screen with his arms folded. His jaw clenched. Midoriya looked down. Not in shame. In focus. Aizawa didn't comment immediately. Then. Bakuga, good control. First time you've ever trusted someone else to lead. Don't make it the last. Bakuga didn't reply. Midoriya, your fire output was balanced. Your restraint saved you from overheating. But your body language is still hesitant when giving commands. That will get someone killed. We're going to fix that. Both of you, rematch with me next week. No backup. Full power. They both nodded. Silently. Conclusion. Aizawa turned off the projector. You're heroes in training. And that means constant adaptation. In 1 week, you will face the provisional licensing exam. You will be up against other students from across Japan, quirks you've never seen, strategies you can't predict. Train. Fight. And above all, learn. He glanced around the room. Eyes sharp. Unforgiving. Proud. Class dismissed. UA dorms morning. It was a rare kind of morning at U. Quiet. No alarms. No explosions. No drills. Just the sun streaming through the dorm windows, golden and gentle, birds chirping somewhere in the distance, and the peaceful hum of students not running for their lives. For once, Class 1A wasn't prepping for disaster. They had been granted a full rest day before the provisional licensing exams, a day to breathe, reset, and remember why they were working so hard in the first place. Common room 8:34 a.m. Ijuku Midoriya sat curled up on the couch, notebook open on his knees, half writing, half dozing. His green curls were a fluffy mess from sleep, but he didn't care. He smiled quietly when a soft guitar chord rang behind him. Morning came Kyuka's voice, just above a whisper. She walked in with her hair still damp, strings of her earjacks plugged into her phone as soft music drifted out. Ijuku set the notebook down. You're up early. So are you. Their eyes met, both still a little sleepy. She walked over and sat beside him, head resting against his shoulder. You're not writing training notes, are you? Nope, he smiled. Just thoughts. Good. They sat there like that for a long time, quiet, simple, close. Kitchen shenanigans 9:15 a.m. Down in the kitchen, Mina and Denki were failing miserably at making pancakes. Why is it sticking? Mina shouted, wielding a spatula like a sword. Because you didn't use oil, Acid Queen. Kaminari replied, shielding himself from a flying pancake. Momo entered with a sigh and summoned a fresh non-stick skillet. Please, let me help before you set off the sprinklers. Meanwhile, Kirishima and Zero were building a pyramid out of orange juice boxes, cheering every successful stack. Bakuga stormed in, scowling. If any of you idiots get this place put on fire alert, I'll kill you. Love you too, Bakuga tilde. Denki chirped. Girls' room 10:47 a.m. In the second floor lounge, Yurika, Zuyu, Momo, and Higakyo had set up a spa zone. Face masks, foot baths, hot towels. We deserve this, Yurika sighed, eyes closed. We should do it after the exam too, Higakyo added, her mask floating in the air. Let's survive it first, Zuyu croaked. Training field noon. Not all were fully resting. Todoroki stood at training field Gamma, practicing fine control, melting a frozen leaf in midair, then cooling steam with a flick of flame. A few yards away, Taida ran timed laps with mechanical precision, muttering interval goals under his breath. Eventually, Todoroki looked over. You're not resting. I could say the same. They both stopped and chuckled, just a little. Mid-afternoon game time. By 2 p.m., the whole class had gathered in the common room for a tournament. Not a Combat 1, Mario Kart. It was chaos. Aoyama kept picking Rainbow Road. Mineta kept falling off Rainbow Road. Shuji, despite having 6 arms, had never held a controller before. Why is Kirishima so good at this? Kaminari screamed as another red shell hit him. Kirishima, laser-focused, grinned. Manly reflexes. Even Aizawa walked through once, saw them shouting, and just walked right back out. Evening rooftop reflections. Later that night, the rooftop was peaceful. Izuku and Kyuka leaned against the railing, watching stars emerge one by one. "Tomorrow's going to be hard," she said quietly. "Yeah," he replied. "But we've been through worse." She looked at him sideways. "You're stronger than you think." He met her eyes. "So are you." They didn't need to kiss. The silence between them was enough. Shed. Earned. Final scene 1 dorms, 11:59 p.m. Each student lay in their room, the hum of nerves returning. Bags packed. Costumes repaired. Hearts thudding with anticipation. From Izuku's room came soft laughter. Kyuka was with him again, curled up beside him. "Sleep, hero," she whispered. "Only if you're here when I wake up." She smiled. And outside, the moon shone over UA. Because tomorrow, they would face the world.